This is today's reading for the Vermilion Valley Vineyard audio devotional book, Walking with Jesus. I have called my devotional, Rewards of Discipleship. Hello, my name is Curt Hunt and I am speaking on Matthew 10 verses 40 to 42, Mark 9 verse 41, Luke 10 verse 16, John 13 verse 2. If someone gives someone else a cup of water, then they will be rewarded. This sounds rather simplistic in terms of today's world. When we go through the line at any fast food chain restaurant, we can request a glass of tap water and they comply with our request without a second thought. Can you think of an example that exemplifies this verse? Perhaps I can. We were visiting friends at their condo at Daytona Beach, Florida. For several days, we watched from our balcony as people on rented motor scooters raced up and down the hard sand next to the waterline. They appeared to be having a great time. The next day, we rented 2 motor scooters so we could have a similar experience. After acquiring our rented scooters, we went down to the water's edge and headed north near the water's edge. The packed sand made for a good travel surface and we rode along beside the dancing surf. As we continued our journey, we began to notice something. The width of our trail of packed sand between the edge of the surf and the soft sand was decreasing. Several miles north of our entry point it became obvious. The tide was coming in and the packed sand was now underwater. The packed sand trail was gone. The soft sand was almost impossible to navigate. The soft sand came up around the tires and engulfed the exposed wheel. Without the hard, packed sand, further travel was extremely difficult if not impossible. Now we better understood why we had seen 4-wheel drive vehicles stuck in the soft sand yesterday and before. At this point, there was a break in the concrete walls, so we rode up to the main street that parallels the beach. This street was 4 lanes of fast-moving auto traffic. It only took a moment to realize that it was not safe for 2 small scooters. We next rode inland on a side street searching for another lesser-traveled north/south street that would take us back south to our starting point. I soon determined that this street didn't exist, so I made a U-turn in the side street and headed back. My wife attempted the same turn but lost control and soon she was laying in the street under her bike. I quickly got her up and helped her move to a parking lot for a soda shop. The pavement was very hot and she tried to sit up but got lightheaded and had to lay back down. She needed some water. I went into the soda shop and requested a large glass of water and a few napkins. I would use this water to give her a drink and could also wipe her forehead with the water-soaked napkins. The clerk asked for 25 cents. I was wearing swimming trunks and had no money. It didn't matter that I urgently needed this water without delay. There were customers sitting in the shop sipping their drinks. Most of the customers were normal or average appearance in this beach setting. One table had a lone man sitting and he looked a little rough. He didn't fit the picture of the clientele of this area. I was relieved when one of the shop customers came up to the counter and gave the clerk a quarter. Guess who? The Good Samaritan was the guy who didn't fit the picture. It is often difficult to get around our faulty perceptions when God is at work for us. I gave my wife water to drink and rinsed her brow with cool, refreshing water. Isn't it amazing how beneficial and restorative fresh water can be when we most need it? Isn't this like turning to God and actually listening to Him when our times become difficult? Have you ever experienced a blessing from God coming from the least expected source? Have you experienced something very simple and perhaps something that we take for granted being a blessing at a moment when we find ourselves lacking this basic necessity?